Let's go. The rest of y'all just stay right there. Just sit.
I mean, I do learn the show, execute for 2 weeks, and I'm out.
He didn't run down. You leave quarterback 6 or.
My name is Thomas Troutman. I am the director, and I also played the role of the Wiz. So this process started, it started almost, I don't know, maybe 9 years ago. So when I first got out of high school, yeah, it's been a process. So when I first got out of high school, I went to St. Clair for a year and I studied theater performance for a semester. And I had a professor who told me, like, school will always be here. You need to go out and get your experience and let your experience come. Like if school is important to you, school will always be here. Go get your experience and then you can come back to school. So just kind of moving forward, in 2011, I released my first solo album, and I was on a tour called the No More Pressure Tour. And as I was booking the tour and like going to different cities, I wanted to bring the tour here to Trotwood. I graduated from here. I still had peers and colleagues here at Trotwood. And there was a lot of this that went on for a few years with like the Board of Education. They would say, yes, you can do this, this project, and then they would kind of pull back. So I didn't get to bring the No More Pressure Tour here. And for years, since I graduated up until now, I would come back and do like Black history programs and that kind of thing. So about 5 years ago, my mom, Miss Troutman, and some other people in the district, we started talking about how we can do a production here that would bring performing arts to Trotwood.
Well, the process actually did start about 5 years ago. The first year, I was like, oh wow, we need to do a production. Maybe we can do the Wiz. Kind of played around with it, and no, they didn't want to do it the first year. But within the last 4 years, myself, Mr. Thomas, Miss Williams, and Miss Minor have been really pushing to bring the Wiz and performing arts to the Trotwood-Madison City School District. Now, the first few years, it was given to us and then taken away, and that process happened back and forth for about 4 years. Last year, Miss Minor was able to secure a $10,000 grant. However, the superintendent, Mr. Bell, said yes, and then the principal refused the production. I just learned that this year.
So at that point, I was a little discouraged because I'm like, I really want to bring the experiences that I've had in the last 10 years back to Trotwood, but it seems like the opportunity, never goes through. This time around though, like, I remember I was approached about it, like, hey, we're going to try to do this again. I remember Mr. Overson, the superintendent, and Mr. Carruthers, who was the principal here. They're like, we're going to do this thing. And I sat down with Kiara Williams and Mr. Overson. I did a pitch, and I told them, I just painted the picture of the vision that I had for this project. And, at the end of that meeting, it's like a 2-hour meeting. He's like, okay, let's do it. I'm giving you the green light. And he looked at Kiara. He's like, Kiara, Thomas, make it happen. So at that point, we started moving forward with the project.
So I remember, and Thomas and I both remember very clearly the first day that I was able to listen to his proposal to the superintendent, where he kind of gave his ideas and vision, and it just matched what our curriculum department, specifically Ms. Minor, had been wanting to do and had been talking with Dayton Dance in the past about our desires to, put on production and to just birth visual and performing arts for the district in general. And so I will never forget from the very first day that I got the opportunity to listen to Thomas's vision and how he was going to carry this out. I didn't really know how this was going to work out in Trotwood, but I knew that it was going to be difficult, and if we were going to do it, that he was going to be the person to help us do it, because his drive and his passion, in part from his own experiences as a student, not being able to live out that passion for the arts while he was here, was a huge part of what made this a success. And then just his drive and passion for being able to provide that for our students, it was loud and clear without even asking. And from that day on, I said, wow, if we're going to do this, this is the time to do it, and this is the person to do it with.
What most people don't know is that earlier last year, the board set out with specific strategic goals. One of those goals was to provide academic and non-academic supports, to provide access and opportunity for equity for each and every child. So when we heard about the WIS, hands down, this gave us an opportunity to realize that goal.
The thing that worried me the most is that we would get the green light and then it would be shut down at some point. And then when we finally got to, like getting approvals on our budget and, different things, I was just like, okay, this is really happening. And then the biggest thing for me is, like, I've directed plays, I've been the choreographer, stage manager, like assistant director for musicals, but I myself had never directed a musical before this. So just kind of taking on doing everything, acting and casting great singers and like the dancing, it was kind of overwhelming for me. It's like I knew I could do it, but it's like I've never done this before. So I was just kind of like, the way we were paving the way for this program to start, I was paving a way and kind of formulating a foundation for me to direct a musical.
When we heard that the Dayton dance was a part of it, when we heard that you were going to be the producer, when we heard that your mom, Miss Troutman, was part of this operation, we knew that we were in good hands. This is what you guys do, and you do this well.
What was the audition process like for you?
The audition process.
All right.
Ready?
Keep that energy.
5, 6, 5, 6, 7, let's work. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, press 1, 4, up 5, 6, other side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, press, and 1.
First of all, it was a lot because, we're talking about 3 different buildings. We had to have 2 different sets of auditions for both the high school and middle school and for Westbrook. Because at the time that we started this production, we had like snow days or inclement weather days. So we had to kind of push back the schedule quite a bit. But going through the audition process and, seeing that we started with probably like 10 or 15 kids, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how we're going to be able to do this, but, I'm going to roll with it. And when I started seeing the talent just from those few auditions, even with our babies, like with our Westbrook kids, I was just like, oh snap, these kids about to hit it.
7 and 8. Everybody take from the 4. This is your 4. This is your left, your right foot behind you. Behind you 5. Step 6. 5, 5, 5.
My name is Amira Erlene Louise Webb. I played the Scarecrow, or played the Scarecrow. I got involved with the Wiz. I saw a poster, and my friend Alea was like, I want to audition, but I have no one to audition with. And I was like, you know what? Let's just go for it. So I was like, okay. We talked to my aunt, stepped into the audition room, and just begun from there. It was very nerve-wracking because I had never done an audition or done a big production, so I was really, really scared. My dancing, I'm not a dancer, so when they gave us a routine, I practiced that routine. I was like, I'm still not gonna get this. The whole audition process, I'm thinking I'm not gonna get this. It's just gonna be okay, but at least I can say I tried. That's what my mindset was. And singing, I know I was I know I had to be off the chart. If you weren't going with it, you can buy a couple ornaments.
Just be sure to read the warning kids, 'cause pretty soon you'll be bored of it. Ah, kids forever, baby soft skin turns into leather. Don't be dramatic, it's only some plastic. No one.
I felt that I was gonna have a lot of competition because I knew pretty much a lot of people wanted to be Dorothy, but not so much because it's a big role, like the biggest role. And then, of course, there's gonna be people trying out for like the smaller leads, but leads. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go for something I can do. Because at first I was gonna go for the lion, and then I was like, I can't roar. Then I was gonna go for Tin Man, and I was like, I'm not stiff. I was like, let's go for Scarecrow.
My first and last name is Kamsiachiko Demodu, and my role was a Tin Man in the show.
Let me tell you, one day I was minding my own business, chopping down the tree, and then I slipped, cut off my left leg.
Ain't that?
It all started when we went on break. So I came back home from the library. Like I had nothing to do, so like I saw the Wiz, the paper of the Wiz on my mom's table. So like I was like, should I audition for this? So at first I was like, I don't know, like it looks boring. So then I went to school. The next day it turned out that some of my friends were auditioning for the show. So like I was like, if they're doing it, it must be fun. So I went here. I knew nothing about theater, so I came here. So the first time I was nervous, shaking.
I found out about the show because there were a lot of like audition slips by our main cafeteria. Also like pictures of the Wiz going on at Trotwood-Madison High School. And I heard some of my friends talking about it, like, do you want to join? I was just like, I don't know, like, I don't know about that. So eventually my girlfriend told me about it. She was like, well, I'm gonna do it, so you might as well. I was like, okay. So when I came here for the auditions, I thought I was just supposed to dance. I didn't think I had to sing or anything like that. And Mr. Miller was like, well, you have to sing. I'm like, man, really? So that day, I went out in the cafeteria, I found a song, and I was thinking of all kinds of songs. I ended up singing the Black National Anthem for my audition, and I was shaking, like literally like shaking. You can see it. I was so nervous. I'm like, man, because this was like my first big audition. My name is Jordan. I'm number 34. I'm undecided on what role I want. I am in 11th grade. The song I'll be singing is the Black National Anthem. Let's hear it. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven. So when I first started singing, I was like, okay, it's not that bad. It was only the staff, the Wiz staff. So I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. And then like close to the end of the song, I was just like, I'm really up here. And I was just like, oh man. I started to forget words. I started singing the wrong notes. I started doing everything. It was just so funny. But now that I look at it, it's like a great experience because I would have never thought I would do something like that.
It's a cop-out. Is that how it was blocked? I don't know, maybe I wasn't paying attention.
So the first I heard that this was happening, I got an email from Kiara Williams saying, hey, come to a meeting about the show we're gonna do. And I thought, great, a show, all right. And so I show up, so Mr. Thomas was there, Mr. Carruthers was there, and Kiara Williams, and got the whole pitch about how this was gonna work. It all sounded like a great idea to me. There's no such thing as too much theater. And so I was all on board, couldn't wait to start this whole process. Well, when I first started here at Trotwood as the drama teacher, before I met the student body or anything, I had all these dreams. I was like, all right, we're gonna have a drama program, we're gonna get 2 shows a year at least, and then a musical. Gonna have like an improv club, etc. First day with the students, I realized, okay, slow down. They're not ready. So the main thing was just trying to open their eyes to drama. A lot of the students, you know, they're too cool for drama. So that's kind of been the biggest thing I've been dealing with here. And so a big production like The Wiz was just I didn't know how it would be received by the student body. I love it, but that's not enough. But I was very surprised by the turnout. We had a pretty small first audition, but we were persistent, kept getting them out there, and ended up with about 40 there in the beginning. Of course, that dropped off, but that meant that the ones we were left with were the right ones, and they were the ones that ended up doing a great job, put in the work, put in the time, and made it a terrific production.
I think one of the biggest challenges for me was casting Dorothy, because I had Michaela, who I ended up casting as Dorothy, and then I had Nolea Johnson, who played the role of Glinda. She came to me first. She was in the first round of auditions. Michaela didn't come until, I think, the second vocal audition.
For me, auditioning was really scary, but it was fun. But the actual role that I actually wanted to go for was Dorothy, and I had apparently didn't get it, but I was like the understudy of Dorothy, so I was like, okay, I gotta learn her part, and then I gotta learn Glenda's part.
Okay, so little background. 2 weeks prior to the announcement of The Wiz, I was watching the movie Wonder with my mother, and at the end, the daughter gives this great performance, and she shows everybody who she truly is, and I was like, I want to do that next year at the high school because we don't have things at the middle school. And 2 weeks later, we get these flyers going around the school telling us about auditions for this big production, and I was like, Auntie, this has to be a sign from God. This is what I'm supposed to do.
When I was met with both of them, I'm like, okay, I have a decision to make, and that was the hardest decision. I think everybody else I kind of knew who I was going to cast, but those two, I lost like literally 3 days of sleep trying to figure out who I was going to cast between them. And I remember both of their auditions. Nolea sang Home for Me, and I was blown away by her audition. Then Michaela came, and I was like, okay, let's see what she has. You know, she's this 8th grader, and a lot of personality, but I didn't know her the way that I do now. And then the girl opened her mouth.
Here in the dark, I stand before you, knowing this is my chance to show you my heart. This is the start, this is the start.
And I was like,
I have so much to say,
hey.
and I'm hoping that you're...
Yeah, I remember her first audition, and then just starting to get to know them. And I remember in the callbacks that Nolea sang Believe in Yourself. And I remember me and Mr. Miller were in the sound booth. We looked at each other, and his words were, well, she made that easy. I was like, yes, she did.
When I found out that I was Glinda and also an ensemble, I was like, oh, I'm cool with this. It was really hard work. Having to dance all over the place and then having to come back for like more scenes and stuff, being Tornado, Yellow Brick Road, etc. It was like hard work, but it was worth it.
So I heard about The Wiz, didn't try out, paid no mind to it at all. And my dad was like, "Son, have you heard about The Wiz?" I was like, "Yeah." "What about it?" He was like, "Are you going to try out for it?" I was like, "No." "Why?" He was like, "I think you would do really good for it." And I was like, has to be some underlying thing. But okay, I'll try out for it.
That falls under the heading of transporting a minor across state lines. Maybe you should go see The Wiz. Yeah, she's gonna go ahead.
What was going through my head? A lot. I cried many days because I was like, I just don't feel it. And I was telling my auntie, like, I really don't feel like it's gonna be me. And she was like, I had a dream that you were a munchkin. And I was like, and I just cried every day. But I knew somehow I would be something important.
When you said the gas list was coming out, I was like, ooh, what's gonna happen? So like, I got to school, looked on the board, looked on the, yeah, I know what it's called, but I looked on it. Then I saw the gas list. So like, I kept looking, so I was so nervous, I couldn't find my name. I was like, where's my name? Am I kicked out of the show or something? So like, I kept looking, and then I looked at the lead rows, then I saw my name there. I just, like, my mind was like...
When I found out I had a leading role as the lion, I was like so shocked because I didn't think I was gonna get any role in the play because of my audition because I was so nervous. So when I found out, I actually didn't even tell my mom that I was auditioning because if I didn't make it, she would have never known about it. So when I found out, I was so happy and I told her about it first. And I was just like, hey, showtime now.
You know, like even with Jordan, he was really shy, but I could kind of see like some personality. And I actually asked a bunch of people who knew him, like, okay, you know, how is he when he comes out of his shell? And they told me how funny he was and everything. And I remember the first day where I just knew, like, okay, yeah, this is our lion. He is funny because we were talking and I said something to him and he looked at me and he said, we ain't gonna make it. There he is, there's my lion. And from there I was just like, okay, I felt good about, you know, the roles that I casted.
So I was in 5th period, arguing with my teacher. And suddenly Miss Latham pops up. So I'm thinking, oh, Miss Latham's coming. She's about to come rescue me from class like she usually does. And then I saw Mr. Thomas. And I was like, what's he doing here? So they were like, we need to talk to you. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the moment I find out that I didn't get the role. And they want to break it to me the right way. And we just took this walk. And I'm like, why are they walking? Why are we walking? What are we doing? So they took me to the cast list and I saw my name. And it was kind of a pinch myself moment because I really inside didn't feel like I had the role. And I just went home and I screamed and screamed.
Well, the first thing, like one of the things that was in the front of my mind this whole time is like, I have something to prove to our district. I have something to prove to our community because this is the first venture and like we have to come with it or they're not going to trust that this is something that we need. You know, I kind of knew that that wasn't true because of the support that I had from the beginning. Just going through and seeing everyone dance and listening to the voices, like it was kind of hard to cast this show. Because first of all, I didn't have a lot of guys show up for auditions. And then the people that did show up, they were skeptical. Like even though they were there and they were committed from the beginning, they weren't sure what they were getting themselves into. And you know, to be honest, as cool as I seemed, I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into either. But once I did the casting and we started rehearsals, I was just like, okay, you made the right decisions. And the bond, just from the first read-through, the bond was so powerful and the chemistry, I was like, oh, this is something really special. This is going to be an experience.
It was so surreal. Like it's the first day in one of the rooms upstairs and we were all in the room and we were just reading our lines. And the energy that was filling the room was something so powerful. Like everybody was bonding without even speaking to each other. And at that moment, I knew this was going to be one of the best things I've ever done.
Cool. All right, let's continue. So y'all go ahead. That transition happened. He's on down the road. Yep.
My favorite part of the rehearsal process was just like the freedom that we had. Like the cast trusted me, the crew, like my staff trusted me, and we laughed so much.
Slow on the draw with the tape job. Look,
Look, he breaking stuff. You're like, oh, I don't even know if I can read.
That's why I have to talk tape on.
What was the rehearsal process like for you?
Well, I was kind of used to like being in a certain place for long hours because I'm in the band. But it was just different because usually, you know, wake up late in the day, especially on the weekends, on breaks. But that wasn't the case. You had to wake up early, and then we was here working, running through stuff. It wasn't like you got a break every 20 minutes. You had a break every couple hours. But that wasn't really hard for me because I was used to doing stuff like that, especially having a job and stuff like that. So the rehearsal was actually pretty fun because I was used to being somewhere doing stuff for multiple hours in a day. So it wasn't really difficult for me.
Oh, it was fun. Like, I was like, okay, this is work, but it's not work. It's fun, but it's not fun. I was like, okay, well, I see he's got a strict side, he's got a cool side. We're going to try for that cool side. So I made sure that I was on my A game. I was pretty much memorized by the first week. I was pretty good with the audition. Well, not the audition, the rehearsal process.
With me being like one of the last friends to come out, I had so much downtime to go over my script. And I also got put in charge of the Westbrook kids, so I had to watch them. Had to take them to the restroom. So my experience was pretty smooth. I really didn't have to worry about like a lot of blocking or anything because I really came in like at the end. But I also had a lot of responsibility as far as keeping up with children and also learning all my script.
I thought the high schoolers would be like mean to us because we were a lot younger and we didn't know no better. But they were actually really nice. And the rehearsals, I was so sore after those. I was sore. But I still had fun and I made new friends.
I made a lot of new friends. Like, so most of the time I really wouldn't like be like the person to make friends that much, like that are out of my grade level that I can't see every day. But it was fun for me because I got better. I made more older friends and it was cool hanging out with somebody that was older than me. It's like someone to look up to.
My name is Loretta Troutman, and I was the rehearsal coach for The Wiz.
Why? Let me see what happened. No, look. I told them I went and grabbed some wine downstairs.
I kind of inserted myself in this project. I wasn't officially asked to come and coach the kids, but my brother Thomas, if you didn't know, Thomas is my brother. We've kind of been trained up in the same realm, I guess, from a very young age. And so I just kind of knew that he would trust me with that aspect of what theater includes, and that is training. So yeah, I kind of just asked him if I could come and coach, or I don't know, we just never really had a conversation about it. I was just like, okay, I'm coming here on these days, I'm gonna work with the kids, and that's how it came about pretty much.
That part needs to be louder, okay? Too much joy. This side is good. I don't want you guys to fall over as much on this side because it's like that's falling over, okay? So that part needs to be really big. And then even before that, y'all witness it. Y'all like, oh, this is tea, okay? So when y'all cleaning, you listen, okay? Y'all can react to each other, you know? As far as y'all know, y'all family, okay? So you like, girl, look at this. You know, you're listening. And that's how you know kind of when to laugh, okay?
So the first rehearsal, I didn't coach them. I just watched, I think maybe the first act, and I was pleasantly surprised by how professional the kids were. My expectations, I won't say they were low, but I wasn't expecting them to be as prepared and as professional as they were. So I just kind of watched them, watched their process in front of and behind the scenes, kind of took some time to talk to a couple of them before I actually started working with them and coaching them. And then I think maybe 2 weeks later is when I had my first real rehearsal with them and when I actually started coaching them. And it was a really fun process. It wasn't challenging at all, which is pretty weird. I don't know, I didn't feel as though I was working. I felt like I was having a lot of fun, and as I do casting, but I do coach kids as well often, and I always feel like I'm working and have to continuously pull out of children, which is fine. That's what I love to do. But when I was working with these kids in particular, I just kind of felt like I was playing for an hour and a half because they applied the notes rather quickly, which doesn't happen. And I don't know, I was just really surprised by that. So my process was really easy. I just kind of told them what they needed to adjust in that moment, and they did it, which is very professional of them.
I told them on day one, I'm never going to treat you like an amateur. I'm going to always treat you like a professional. First of all, being an artist and sharing the stage with these people, like these young people who like have performed better than some of the professionals I work with. And I've been all over the world several times and worked with so many different people, and they raised the bar for me.
Mr. Thomas's student, Loretta, so like she really helped. She taught us how to improvise, showed us how to act. So if someone changes the subject, go with the flow. Like don't just go like, wait, oh my gosh, I forgot my line. So, you don't do that on the stage.
So a lot of acting starts with real life, and in real life we don't necessarily think about what's coming next. We just only say what we feel in that moment in relation to what we're doing. So if we're going to the grocery store and something falls, we might jump. Or if we're in an Uber with someone who is kind of creepy, we're silent and we're kind of reserved and we go to our phones. Those everyday real life actions they are acting as what acting is. The first day that I actually started working with the young performers was the first day I introduced improvisation to them. That was also the first day I introduced acting, bigger character. And that was a really fun day. We had just finished rehearsal. I believe we had just finished going through a few of the scenes and maybe the first act. And I've been working with everyone on their dialogue and just on feeding off of each other as they perform. And so I just thought it would be a good opportunity for them to actually experience improv, because that's also an important tool for them to have as young actors or actors in general. So we played one of my most favorite improvisation games, and it's called Freeze. So basically in Freeze, what you do is you'll have your director, which is a very important role, and then you'll have a couple other people like me or Thomas. You'll pick a different scenario, and the kids or the actors, older actors, younger actors, they have to build upon that scenario or add to a sentence that you give them.
Okay. Scenario, you guys are at school, you're in detention, and you're trying to escape. There's a teacher in here somewhere, possibly. That is all. You're at school, detention, your goal is to escape. Thank you. And I need a new director, just for this one. Oh, you already said it.
Okay.
You're hired. And?
Yep.
All right.
Action.
Why was that?
Oh my god, I hate detention.
What did I get in here for? It was the other girl. Like, it's a window right there.
Miss Loretta was a whole other thing altogether. The first time I met her, I knew she was like this kind of character that I haven't seen in a while. Like, I'm like, okay. But then she was just so, there was something special about her. The way she brought up her acting skills on stage, I was like, that is definitely Mr. Thomas's sister. But then, you know, she just helped me a lot.
On set, this round, I'm gonna call freeze, and I'm gonna pick and choose who goes in. Got it? Okay. So, what's your name? Miss Angel. You're in.
They did fairly well the first time. They didn't necessarily understand what improv was in that moment. I think at first they thought that improvisation was acting like someone else. So you have to act like Michael Jackson, you have to act like Beyonce, when really improvisation is just creating a fictional reality. You just have to be yourself and make choices that you would make in everyday life. At one point, it was me and a couple of students, and I had changed the scene from, I think we were maybe at a house or at a school somewhere, I don't remember, but I changed it into being on a film set. And On a film set, there are many, many moving parts. There are cameras, there's directors, there are PAs, there are people running to get coffee, there are people who are tugging at the actors, at their hair, at their makeup. So I kind of inserted myself in the scene as a director, which wasn't really acting because that's what I do. I direct actors. So I'm directing the scene, I stop the actual scene that's going on, and I direct the scene into, you know, something different. And at one point I yell out, because this is not so far-fetched, I yell out for someone to go get my coffee. I say, "Where's Bill? He's supposed to get my coffee 20 minutes ago," or whatever it was.
Where's Bill with my coffee? I asked for it 3 hours ago. Starbucks is open 24 hours.
And so I call action for the fictional scene. And so we're going in the scene, and then a very familiar voice, Mr. Thomas L. Troutman, he inserts himself, and I really appreciated that because I kind of passively said, "Hey, where is Bill with my coffee?" But he took that as an actor and said, "Hey, oh, I could be Bill. Let me cast myself real quick as Bill. Let me show them what Bill is about."
That was good.
Starbucks wasn't open, but I went to Speedway and it was a free coffee.
Bill,
Yes?
Starbucks across the street is open 24 hours! We went over this yesterday and the day before yesterday and the day before yesterday! You better be glad you are my first cousin's neighbor's little brother. Because if you weren't, oh, I swear, Bill, your last day would have been the day before yesterday, which was the day before yesterday, and the day of yesterday, which is also today.
So Tuesday?
Bill.
But that's your coffee.
Bill.
Yes?
So then after Bill brings me my coffee, we have like this little moment of banter that was super hilarious, and I was really proud of that moment because I got to play with my brother again, and that is how we started. Thomas has always used me as the director, as the costume person, as the actor, the figure skater, the cheerleader from Bring It On. He was always having, we never played with toys. I played with dolls up until I was 13, but Thomas played with me. Like, he was so excited to have a little sister. He asked for a little sister, and I always say that he asked for me because he was tired of doing everything on his own. So I was excited that we kind of got to go back to little Thomas and Loretta. So we were having fun in the scene, and so we're going back and forth. "Bill, you were supposed to get my coffee 20 minutes ago, blah, blah, blah." He says, "Oh yeah, but the Starbucks was closed." And I'm like, "The Starbucks is open for 24 hours, Bill. So what are you talking about?"
Take that coffee, and I want you to shove it down your esophagus until you can no longer breathe. Do you understand me, Bill?
That doesn't sound very safe.
And at one point, Michaela makes a very smart choice as an actor to say, you guys, the Starbucks across the street is on fire."
Freeze. Action.
Bro, Starbucks is caught on fire.
And then Thomas goes,
"Told you it was closed."
And that sent everyone over, and I was so happy that happened because, like I said, I got to play with my brother again, and I taught the children a very valuable lesson in listening to what is going on in the scene, so you can have those magical moments, those beautiful moments, as we did when we were acting.
Get her some gum.
You actually like this or like this?
Yeah.
What you just did.
Hi guys, my name is Michael. This is Michael Jackson.
So just to reiterate, all of the shots that are happening at this booth are during Mr. Miller's theater class. So I probably will put this in the actual edit just so you can know what this background noise is. Take 2 on Jalen.
So when you are doing a show, whether it is live, whether it is television, there are a lot of moving parts, and we are all engaged to be entertained by actors. But however, without the people who work behind the scenes, nothing can happen. Nothing is going to go right. You're not going to get, the heightened effect of a scene or a dance performance without the lights, without the sets, without the makeup, without the hair, without the costume, without people in the sound booth, making sure the mics are off when the actors go backstage, or making sure, their faces are beat and their costumes are correct. The crew is a very, very pertinent part to this process.
Hercules, Hercules.
My name is Ruben Hall. I am in 10th grade. I'm a sophomore, and I was a stage manager for The Wiz. Before I heard about The Wiz, I was doing Black History program for Trotwood, and I was working with Mr. Thomas and Mr. Troutman. So I was doing light cues for the Black History program. So after that, I heard about The Wiz, and at first I wasn't really thinking about it. Well, no, that's a lie. I was thinking about it, but I really wasn't. But I wanted to do it.
My name is Anicia Anderson. I was assistant stage manager. Well, first I was in the Black History program with Miss Houston, and I didn't have anything else to do, so Mr. Thomas just added me on because he asked was I part of The Wiz, and I told him no. I think because I always like to be on top of things, so it gave me like some type of organization, so I know where people will be at and what they need to do. So it made me feel kind of better. So it got me in, because I don't like being disorganized at all. So I was like, but I felt good because I felt more connected with the people, because I had to talk to them and understand their feelings and everything, which is great for me because I don't really talk a lot.
One day I was in 6th period and I heard Ruben tell me, Ruben and Jalen talking about how they was in this play, and then all I know is I was just listening, and they was talking about how fun it was, and I was like, how do I get into the play? And they told me just come in after school and talk to Mr. Thomas. So that's when I came. I was super confused because I didn't know how to do it. That was literally my first time doing anything in a play. Like I've seen a play, but I just never been involved in one. So learning how to do that was pretty fun.
Okay, sis, I'm here, but it's not because of you. It's because of you. Don't you come signifying to me.
Well, I don't regret being involved in The Wiz because it was a wonderful program. But my whole plan was, since I didn't audition, I wanted to do crew and do behind the scenes work to show what we could do as students. And then Mr. Thomas had other plans. So his other plans were, my audition was Black History Month when I spoke. So now I was in The Wiz.
So, what do you have for me in the game this time? Something right up your alley. A couple of cats who need straightening out. Ooh, do tell.
So, on your line, I was okay with that. I just wanted little roles, but then I was like, okay, I want to do the crow because I want to be goofy, I want to be special. Then I get a citizen line, I get a monkey line. Just know that was a whole different scenario.
You want to see The Wiz? The silver slippers of the Wicked Witch of the East. If you want to see The Wiz, honey, go right on ahead. Whoa.
My name is Felicity Jones. I played Aunt M, understudy of Eveline, and I was in costume design.
I needed a hand with these here clothes before the storm blew them all away. Well, I'm sorry, Aunt Em, I didn't think. You never do, child. We fixing for a twister, and you playing games with that thin dog.
The impact of being a senior and doing this production would be the fact that my freshman year, there was a drama club, and it was amazing. We had wrote a play, we had started practices on it and everything, and something got caught up and they canceled it. So from my freshman year, my actor within me has been like, oh, where's the acting? I'm so bored. And sophomore year, and then junior year, and then I get to my senior year. And after Christmas break in January, and Miss Kira came up to me and was like, we're having a production of The Wiz. Come check it out. I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? It's gonna be my, like, what I want to do after high school. Like, okay, let's get a kick off of this.
My past experience is that I was on the road with the group Zap for, I don't even know. The first time was probably about maybe 5 years. I took care of my brother-in-law, Roger Troutman's wardrobe. After that, after 1999, from 99 to probably 2000, I was on the road still taking care of the Zap Band's wardrobe until I came off of the road with my daughter when she started school. When Loretta started kindergarten, then I came off the road and just stayed home. Because we are from an entertainment family, it's just an extension of what my professional role is in the entertainment business with the Zap Band and then Thomas Troutman as an entertainer. So costuming, organizing, making sure that the details are handled is just what I do.
Mrs. Troutman has managed to get all of the minute details, the things nobody wants to deal with. And she just took care of all of it. Amazing. Like making sure these kids are fed, making sure there's costumes, all the things that even as you're sitting out there and you're watching a show, you think about, oh wow, what great choreography, what great music. You don't think about, oh, what a great job these kids got fed every day, got home every day, all that stuff. It's a very thankless job, and she nailed it.
We're going in on The Wiz here at Trotwood-Madison and the Dayton Dance Workshop.
And I'm loving it.
Oh my God.
Look, I feel like I'm just so proud of you.
I literally heard about it probably 2 weeks before I actually, came and, met everybody. And I actually met it through Loretta. We were on Facebook and I just seen her post like, hey, I'm looking for MUAs. And I'm just like, let me try this out. She's like, if you're willing to build your portfolio. I'm just like, okay, this sounds like a really good chance and a really good opportunity. And then I found out it was The Wiz and I was like, you're kidding. Like, this is my favorite. Like, yeah, I have to be a part of this. I was mind blown. One, these are kids. And I'm like, they're killing it. Like, and I'm thinking in my head, and I'm talking to the other MUAs like, could you ever imagine? And they're like, no, I would have fell all over the stage. I can't remember it. And I'm just like, yeah, like this is way more than I've ever imagined. I didn't think it was going to be that all.
Production. I'm learning my script. I'm learning my cues or whatever. And this is, I do it. I learn a show, execute it for 2 weeks, and I'm out. So, like I said, this is nothing new. I know what it takes to get you. I know what it takes to get you. If you focus on those three things I just told you, script, do your part, know how it fits with what's going on the stage, know how it works together with everybody else, you'll be there. I promise you. I promise you. Above all, please ask.
What's our number one goal? Yeah!
The first thing when it comes to rehearsals, discipline. Period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Discipline.
I was more disciplined because Ms. Thomas taught us a lot about discipline. Like if we were to do something we weren't supposed to, we would get push-ups or sat on the wall.
Y'all, open the curtain. I'm not gonna say this again, because y'all gonna do push-ups, crew. That curtain goes after red, not after green. As soon as you all, Emerald City citizens, hear that trumpet go, you come out to hear the announcement. Am I clear?
Yes. It was difficult, so I tried my best to do everything that I was supposed to do, to not do push-ups. And I went home and did everything my parents told me to do. I don't know why, but I did. I was afraid they would have called you.
I'm sorry. Hey, that's right.
Yeah, one thing I have to say, Mr. Thomas's biggest strength is the way he relates to these kids. As I've tried in my classrooms to like get on their level and try to deal with them, it's nothing like what he can do. As he says to them all the time, when they start giving excuses or they start giving less than their best, he'll say, "Okay, Thomas," and they get confused. And they're like, "That's your name, I'm confused." And then he says, no, you do things like that, I'll call you Thomas, because that's what I see when you do that. I see myself making these excuses. And I really love that. And they've always responded to him really well.
You know, like they were so disciplined and so professional, and I think my favorite part of the rehearsal process was just that. Like, sometimes it took a while for them to catch on that I needed them to, act and turn it on. But when they turned it on, it was on. And I think just creating those bonds and having an individual relationship. I mean, you're talking about 40 kids, or 40 people in the cast, and even more. I think by the end of this, my main crew, cast, and staff, we were about 61 of us together. And to have a relationship with each person, like that's commitment on both ends, from the cast, the crew, and the staff, and me to them. So I think building the bond is my favorite part.
The bonding is incredible. Like, I FaceTimed my Kayla the other day, saw her today, same energy like I seen her in like 5 years. It's just like the bonding that we created off stage, to have the chemistry that we have on stage is incredible. Like, we, in our breaks, we spent that time getting to know each other, going over lines and getting to know each other, and just be like feeding off each other's energy. It's pretty rare.
Me and Amira, if somebody has to talk about something, we won't hesitate to text each other and say, "I need your help." And I never thought I would have a bond with somebody that was so different from people I've known for years. It's just instant. But you're not even close enough to you're not even close enough to kiss me. Look at my arm. Look at my arm.
You act like it was a high jump though.
Opening night.
Opening night.
That first night.
Opening night.
Opening night, I didn't know my lines in the second act, period.
Uh-oh.
The scariest moment for me was just, within that last week, still kind of being unsure of, like, okay, are we going to be able to get the budget for the sets to be completed? Or, there were scenes in Act 2 that I hadn't even blocked yet, which was strategic because all of the smoke and mirrors and the hard stuff was in the first act, which is why I ran that so much in the beginning. But it was like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. But knowing that my cast performed like professionals, I knew I can come in the day before, the day of the show, block these scenes, run them, and they would be able to hold on to that and execute in front of an audience. No questions asked.
Okay, so the scariest moment was dress rehearsal, probably final dress. I'm sitting in the booth because I'm doing sound, and I'm seeing these platforms being used as, that'll be the set tomorrow. And I thought, okay, sure. And then there's a moment, I don't remember when in the show, but the actors are all on stage, and they all just start looking at each other. And Mr. Thomas goes, "What are you doing?" And one of the cast members says, "We haven't blocked this." And I went, "Oh my God." And then there were performers, might have been Mr. Thomas, who didn't have their lines memorized at final dress. It may or may not have been him. And so Mr. Miller was just up there having a mini stroke in the booth. But that the show, I don't think you asked about this emotion, but the amount of relief when we did that show in Act 2 was a little rough the first night, but it was a show. It was there. I don't know where it came from. And that audience that first night was amazing. The adrenaline shot those kids got when they heard their names being called out in the audience. After some songs, people were standing up and screaming. That was such a rush, and that's why we do this. And I hope that the kids remember that feeling.
But I think one of the scariest moments for me was being in that position of a director, but also being in the show. I didn't have as much time to run lines or go over blocking because I was always in director mode and I was putting out fires every single day. So, and I know like some of them are going to talk about me, and I will look into this camera and say, opening night, I didn't know my lines in the second act, period. I killed it in the first act, but the second act, like I didn't know my lines. And I think one of the magical parts about that is that our rehearsal coach, Loretta Troutman, who's my sister, came in several times over this process from LA. And, you know, for a couple days, we did improv exercises. And that saved all of us because I'm a pro at improv. And like my leads, like my co-stars, they had my back because like I was saying all kinds of stuff, and they were just going with me.
I don't remember what happened next. Come here. Yes, sir. So you don't remember? But let's try again. And tell me what happened next, my man. Oh! I landed right here in the middle of a lady's social.
Lies.
On opening night as well, like I choked in front of the audience, literally was choking, trying to sing, and I'm like, Thomas, you might throw up. I would rather you run your butt off this stage and throw up on the side and come back. But, you know, I just opened the door, I got some fresh air, I chugged a bottle of water, came back and finished the song. Very inspired by my uncle, Roger Troutman, who, you know, passed almost 20 years ago. And I remember the last conversation I had with him. You know, he was always joking. And the last thing he said to me was, he got really serious. And I never seen that man serious almost ever a day in my life, except when, you know, it was showtime, which I think I get that from him too, because he was a perfectionist on stage. But he got serious and he said, don't let anybody tell you that you can't be, you know, whatever you want to be. And he looked at me and he said, you're going to be better than I ever was. And those words for 20 years have literally been in my heart. And that was probably, you know, 3 or 4 days before he died that he told me that. And, you know, I wanted to live up to, you know, what he told me. And that's, don't let nobody tell you that you can't be the best. And that's what I try to encourage, you know, my students and, you know, my co-stars and everybody to just know that you can be the best and the greatest.
Well, it was very interesting because the major part of my job is working with gifted students, but I very rarely get to work with gifted adults. And so I know all the classic signs, all of the, you know, behaviors and things like that. So to get to work with someone like Thomas Troutman, who is classic creative thinking, but as an adult, and then hearing his stories and experiences about what school was like for him, what he was afforded or wasn't affording, I was constantly in a reflective state, even though I might not have always shared it, about what we're doing for our gifted students, what we're not, you know, how things are affecting them. But to take his brain and the way he was thinking and his experiences in the professional world and trying to constantly protect that because it's not always understood, and trying to get that into a safe place where he can be free to operate in a way that's going to maximize his gifts and talents. I was constantly in a challenge in a good way to make sure that however we did this, that his name, Dayton Dance's name, their experiences with our district and our district's experiences with Dayton Dance remain in a positive light. And that was difficult to balance all the time.
And I think we needed to do that to make sure that as we're moving forward, that we can grow, grow from where we are.
So I've changed a lot. Like, I didn't even realize it, but I've really changed a lot. To begin with, like, when I first heard about the Wiz, I really didn't think much about it. I'm like, okay, it's just a production. It's nothing like that. And then, like, once I started getting into it, I'm like, man, like, it's really bigger than what I thought it would be. So I'm like, okay. Because first I used to just be all about music, just music and athletics. So I'm like, okay, it's pretty dope. And after the last show, I'm like, it's really over. Like, I gotta do another, like, next year, next production, I'm really gonna be in it for real, no hesitation, because it really changed me. Like, it helped me find out that I'm not as shy as I thought I was, or I'm more funny than I thought I was. So that just really helped me out and made me a better person.
Every single day when I wake up at 7 a.m. and I go to do my job, that is kind of like the same thing every day, even though it is what I love. Sometimes I get burnt out. And I remember that first rehearsal that I went to with the Wiz Kids, and they just kind of allowed me to tap into my adolescence again. And since then, I've been able to recognize that, I absolutely am doing what I am doing professionally to change people's lives and to be able to tap into my adolescence extremely easily. And that's not something that everyone can do or they remember how to do. So these kids have definitely taught me to breathe. It's okay to work. It's okay to be so involved in what you're doing in your career, but you also have to take a moment to be silly and to have fun. And I am very silly. My last name is Troutman, and we're all very silly. We are all very energetic all the time. But sometimes life comes at you hard, it comes at you fast, and these kids, oh my gosh, just to see their growth in a couple of weeks was so impactful on my life, because I had a small part in that, but they had a big part in how I am continuing to navigate through life with a lot less stress and a lot more fun, for sure.
It was really special to me because I know that love conquers everything. Some of our participants were some of the ones who were really cursing me out with real cuss words, in the beginning of the year. But I stayed consistent. And they knew that I cared because I stayed consistent. And whatever I said I would do, I did that. So they developed trust. And just seeing the end product and how we've experienced it time after time with our Dayton Dance Workshop students, that they stay really close. They go on to college. They never want to leave, even though rehearsal's been over. An hour later, they're still hanging out. They're texting each other. They're doing things outside of their norm. So building those relationships are lasting relationships. So when you're having a difficult time, even as an adult, you can just see all of this hard work that's been put in and the joy and the love that they're developing. They're going to have issues. They're going to talk about each other, but they're still going to come back around and be friends. So that really brought joy to my heart to see that they had a space, because they're not athletic, to express themselves and feel like they have a place to belong.
Miss Troutman, she was strong, if I may put it. So she taught me that you need to think about others when you're doing something. Don't just think about yourself and what you need. Think about what other people need too. So that's what she taught. That's what she taught me, that you need to control yourself. I need to think about others before you think about yourself.
It was very, very, very interesting. That's the way to put it. Like Mr. Miller, Mr. Michael, Mr. Thomas, Miss Loretta, Miss Troutman, And the other staff members, like, they were also supportive of all of us. We got on their nerves a few times, I admit it, but then, yeah, it was so good.
Mr. Thomas, he's one of our kind.
Because, I mean, Mr. Thomas is really funny, but he treated us like professionals, and this was kind of like a professional play because he wanted us to shine and be our best, and he didn't want us to mess up. And Mr. Merkel was a really good but hard choreographer because we all wanted to make sure he was getting everything right, and it was just like, oh, this is so much, and it's so many dances to remember because it's like it's a 2-hour play, so you got all that to remember and to cram it in such little time because of the winter breaks that we had to quickly learn it, but we pulled through.
He would do a mix of all of them. He would be on top of it, but still goof around with you. He would tell you what to do, but still have his mess ups. He wasn't judgmental and hypocritical. He would learn with you. As much as you learned, he learned. And he actually got to learn about you.
The disciplinary the way he disciplined is amazing because it taught me that because he's treating us like professionals means that when you get out into this world and you're doing what you want to do for your future, you know what it's going to be. You won't be like unprepared.
Definitely Mr. Thomas and Ms. Troutman have pushed me in the auditorium with the program and outside of it when it comes to personal things. They're very encouraging people. Mr. Thomas helped me grow within dance and as a person, and so has Ms. Troutman, especially helping me out with senior year. It's a big year. So Mr. Michael, when it comes to dancing, he's definitely pushed us to do things that we were looking at him like, what is this? But in the end, it was very, very fun.
The Wiz was our football game. That was our championship game for performers. So that really helped a lot with in the school. And it also added to my list of activities. So that's good too.
What I've learned through this process is that you should follow your dreams and don't let somebody tell you otherwise.
I didn't know about the drama, the drama classes or anything like that, or even if they did anything such as plays. You hear about the football team, the basketball team, the cheerleaders, but you really don't hear anything about drama, acting. So this was very well for Trotwood. I mean, this brought it up because we're known for basketball, we're known for football. But now we had the Wiz kids from Trotwood. We know they can do singing, they can dance, they can act. It's just not all about athletics, it's about anything else that they can do. So that stepped up Trotwood for me.
I don't even think I can put it in words. It changed my life. It changed my life from the way I thought before to the way I'm gonna think from now on, how I'm gonna live my life from now on. It made me realize I have to be more open-minded about everything. I can't just close things off because I think I can't do it, because there are so many examples that happened throughout this production that said that you can do anything.
All the moments that nobody would ever know. Like, we spent literally hundreds of hours preparing for this, and there was never a dull moment in those hours. And our hard work is something that will go down in history forever. Anybody that was a part of this cast, we Wiz kids, we was the first, and we did it. We did it.
Interacting and making bonds with all these people, because these are bonds that you're going to keep for life. And even if you don't talk to these people again, you're going to have this memory of them. You're going to know that they helped you, that they helped you get through something, and that you're probably going to miss them because of what you went through together and all the times that you had to go through, that you had to spend together. Maybe staying from theaters at 12 o'clock after a show, 9:30 or something. You get in here early on spring break and you know that you spent this time with them.